The Toyota Prius is an automotive icon. Now, it may sound like I'm blowing things out of proportion, but it is absolutely the truth. You see, because when the original Prius debuted in 2001, it changed the public perception of green cars forever and is absolutely responsible for the mass proliferation of electrified vehicles we now know about today. Just look at Toyota's own model lineup, which now features 11 different vehicles that feature some form of an electrified powertrain. However, because of that mass proliferation, buyers have increasingly migrated to vehicles like the Camry or RAV4 hybrids instead. And that makes the vehicle that started it all feel a bit unnecessary some 20 years on. So does the Prius still have a place for itself 20 years after its inception? Well, let's take this 20th anniversary edition model for a drive and find out. So to celebrate 20 years of the Toyota Prius, Toyota has released this, the 2021 Toyota Prius XLE 2020 Special Edition. Confusing name, I know. It's a 2021 model year, but the Special Edition model is called the 2020 in a nod to the fact there has been 20 years of Prius, and this Special Edition model, there will only be 2,020 examples being sold. So what do you get? Well, it is based on the XLE grade of the Prius, kind of the meat and potatoes, right in the middle model, the one most people actually opt for about 30 grand. You get soft text leatherette interior, heated seats, heated steering wheel, wireless phone charging, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, along with a suite of active and passive safety aids thanks to Toyota Safety Sense 2.0. That includes things like lane trace assist, blind spot monitoring, the ability to help park at low speeds, things like that. The thing most folks will pick up on, though, with these special edition models is the color combination, and that's because with this special edition you can only get it in two colors: supersonic red and wind chill white pearl. Both look really slick, and that's because the other part of this package is sort of the blackout treatment. You get the black wheels, the black mirror caps, and sort of this dark theme inside the interior here with like black chrome trim and things like that. It looks quite nice. Though, that said, if you can't get your hands on a 2020 Special Edition, don't worry, because like I said, this is based on an XLE, and you can actually add most of this stuff back onto a regular XLE Prius a la carte. So enough about the Special Edition in particular, let's get back to the Prius in 2021. Well, under the hood is a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder paired to an electric motor, which sends power to the front wheels in this case, and it's good for 121 horsepower and 105 pound-feet of torque, which may not sound like a lot, and, well, it isn't. But it is quite fuel efficient because the EPA rates this particular combination at 54 mpg city, 50 mpg freeway, and 52 mpg combined, which is very, very impressive for a vehicle that starts at under 25 grand. Now, for the Prius and hybrid nerds out there, this powertrain is actually an evolution, a riff off the third-gen Prius, the 2010 to 2015 generation. A vehicle that I once briefly owned and took racing. It was very, very fun. Now, that evolution is definitely a good thing here because this fourth generation model with the revised engine is much smoother and much more refined than the third generation Prius. And while the power output may not be revolutionary coming from the older model, the big thing is going to be the reliability and overall efficiency here. And that's because Toyota has taken some learnings from that third-gen engine and kind of just refined this overall package. Anyone who's worked on an older Prius and dealt with the PCV and EGR systems and bad piston rings, all of that's been fixed in this, which means that in theory, this combination should be very, very tried and true and reliable for hundreds of thousands of miles. And going back to my old third-gen Prius, that car had 180,000 miles on it, and I took it racing multiple times, and it was an absolute champ. So with these revisions, this real tried and true formula, I definitely think there's a lot of appeal for a certain kind of buyer who just wants simple, reliable, and consistent transportation that does offer excellent fuel economy. And on the subject of fuel economy, with every vehicle I test on this channel, I do measure the real-world MPG, and I am delighted to report that after a week of driving, I achieved a real-world figure of 52.1 miles to the gallon, smack dab in the middle of those EPA estimates. And I want to give it a bit of an asterisk here because I think that's particularly impressive because of the drive route I have been driving with this vehicle during my week with it. You see, normally I get caught in a lot of traffic driving through LA, and that's really where a hybrid can shine. However, for this week, I took a bit of a staycation and stayed in Palos Verdes, which is very hilly, and hilly terrain is not conducive to good fuel economy. So the fact that it still achieved 52 mpg overall, I think is very, very impressive indeed. One area that is revolutionary is in the chassis. You see, this Prius is mechanically similar to the Corolla and the Corolla Hybrid, a vehicle I reviewed on this channel a few years ago, and it is very good. And that's a good thing here because that means that unlike the previous Prius, this one has independent suspension at all four corners, struts up front, and a multi-link setup out back, which means that, contrary to popular opinion, this Prius can actually handle. Now, I've just come down from Angeles Crest, one of my favorite driving roads outside of Los Angeles, and it's very windy. There's technical sections, high-speed sections, and credit where it's due, this is no sports car. The Prius is a very soft, very comfortable ride, but it does hang on in the corners quite nicely. And the thing you will notice if you do happen to be the 0.1% of people who will push a Prius hard in the corners, I know I represent the intersectionality of people who've owned a Prius and taken it racing on the track, is that the real limit of adhesion, the real limit of grip, the thing's gonna hold you back most on the Prius is actually the tires. And that's a good thing because that's the easiest thing to upgrade should you want to do so. And so with that independent suspension, you not only gain slightly sharper handling, but you do gain, again, increased ride comfort because it just means it can navigate bumps and broken pavement that much better than its predecessor. Now, at first glance, you can go on Toyota's website, if you're wondering, well, Jake, why bother buying a Prius when I can buy a Corolla Hybrid for a little bit less cash? Well, that's a good point, but you need to compare apples to apples. You see, this is based on an XLE trim, which is a very nicely equipped vehicle. However, that Corolla Hybrid only comes in the LE trim, so less contented there. It won't have soft text, it won't have heated seats, it won't have wireless phone charging, things like that. And additionally, the Prius, while you might not catch on to it at first glance, is a much larger vehicle, especially inside. The back seat is a lot bigger, and trunk space, because of this practical hatchback shape, is more than twice as large as the Corolla. On the interstate now, I love how relaxed the personality of Prius is. People, again, give this thing flack for being slow, but I've had no problem cruising at speeds well above the posted speed limit. Sorry, don't tell the cops on me. And it actually does make the Prius quite the road tripper because you do have that much more space than, say, a Corolla. You can fit 5 friends here in a pinch and have a good amount of luggage space, and it rides really nice and it's quiet on the freeway, and you get the good MPGs. There is definitely a lot to like here. However, I would be remiss if I did not mention this thing's fiercest rival, the Honda Insight, another vehicle I reviewed in this channel, I believe in 2019. You see, because for the same 31 grand that this Prius XLE 2020 edition costs, you can hop into a fully loaded Insight Touring that, in my opinion, just is a nicer car. It rides a bit better, the handling is a little bit sharper, and in my opinion, crucially, I think the interior is just a bit nicer. While I'm not lacking for tech or comfort and convenience in here, the caliber of the materials is a bit ho-hum. There's a lot of blank, kind of hard plastic. You know, whenever I hop into cars, I look for the squish. If you can kind of dig your finger into the dash or into the door cards or wherever, the squish lets you know you're in a really nice interior. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cheap plastic here. On the upside, I do like all the displays Toyota fits into the Prius. The display behind the camera, I'll cut to a cool shot of it, tells you a lot of pertinent driving information. And most crucially, I love how this screen sort of gamifies the driving experience of a hybrid with the HV driving indicator, the hybrid vehicle driving indicator. It shows you what the hybrid system is doing in real time. And again, it gamifies the experience because you want to see, like, oh, well, how far can I go in pure EV mode? You know, how many MPGs can I get in? It gives you a score out of 100 as to how good your driving is for good fuel economy. So does the Prius still have a place for itself in 2021? Absolutely. However, I would say that if you're looking at something like this XLE, sort of a slightly optioned up Prius, I would encourage you that for almost the same money, dollar for dollar, you can hop into the newer Prius Prime, which is the plug-in hybrid version of this vehicle. And I really do think that plug-in hybrid is sort of the future for the hybridized vehicle, because it gives you that increased flexibility of, if you do have access to a plug or even just a wall plug if you want to charge slowly, you can run the Prius Prime in full EV mode for extended periods of time and get basically infinite MPG, or if you don't want to do that, you can drive around like a regular hybrid. And I love that flexibility. It's the same thing I really enjoyed in the RAV4 Prime. So it's quiet, it's comfortable, it's fuel efficient, it's moderately priced. Sure, it's a bit cheap here and there, but with the proven powertrain, this really should be a completely reliable and trouble-free vehicle for a lot of people for a very, very long time. And there's certainly a lot of appeal to that. And I think that's all I got for this episode, guys. As always, my name is Jake. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye.
Wow.